This Transformers 96 here is another movie review. This time I'm going to be reviewing Transformers 5 The Last Night. So yes, I've been very much anticipating this movie. I don't know what it is about Transformers, but I get so excited every time a movie from Transformers comes out. It's kind of interesting. So yeah, I'm a big Transformers fan. Transformers is kind of a big reason I started collecting toys too when that original one came out in 2007. But anyway, I'm a big Transformers fan. I was very excited to see this movie. I've seen it, and now I'm going to do my review. So I do have a bit of a structured kind of order I'm going to go through. Just going to talk about some general things about it in the beginning here, and then I'm going to hit a lot of the characters. There are a lot of characters in this movie though, so there's certainly, I'm not going to go in depth too much with these characters, but I can't cover them all, but hopefully I'll cover a decent range of them. But first of all, the opening. I think that the opening sequence in this movie is very exciting. The whole Excalibur type of opening with the barbarians and things fighting. I think that the action in that scene is tremendous. You know, Michael Bay is excellent with action. I think that a lot of the action that works in this movie is the human action though. But overall, I think that that was a wonderful scene. Very cool, very intense, and you know, a great spectacle. Lots of stuff going up, and the color palette was just excellent. It was mainly like kind of like blues, but with these sparks of like a strong, you know, bright colors with the fire. Very cool. The humor in this movie. This is something that really does not work. I know a lot of people complain about Michael Bay humor. I typically find it funny. I mean, the first Transformers I think is legitimately very funny, and all the jokes really work. Even the third Transformers I really find quite funny. The second one, I think that there's a lot that does work, some that doesn't, but a lot that does. And then in Age of Extinction, most of it worked, although I didn't like the stuff with Stanley Tucci. I didn't think that he was very funny. This movie, however, though, I think all of the humor misses. I genuinely did not really find anything funny in this movie, and it tries so hard. That's another thing that's really bad, is this one tries so hard to be funny, like maybe more so than some of the others, and it really doesn't work. And it's not just me, because when these jokes are delivered, I've seen this movie 4 times now, and some of them, you know, all of them within the first couple of days that the movie came out, so, you know, the theaters were pretty full, and they were all people that are into Transformers, basically, and when jokes are delivered, there's just silence in the theater. It's crazy. Like, I've never experienced anything like it. It's the most uncomfortable, weird experience. You know, I've never experienced something like this, but the humor in this movie does not land. It is not funny, and there's like legitimately nothing that I can find funny in this movie. And it tries so hard. So that was one of my biggest complaints about the movie, because it's just such a downer. Every single time I see the movie, to have these bad jokes that don't land, for me personally, and for anybody in the theater, really uncomfortable and weird. The action in general, like I said, the human action works pretty nicely. I think you have some nice human action sequences. The opening scene, obviously, with, you know, the 1600 years ago, very cool action sequence. The action sequence where the humans, Cade and his friends, are running from the drones, I think works nice. The car chase is pretty exciting as well. But then the robot action is extremely weak. It is really weak. There's barely any like hand-to-hand things. The Decepticons versus the Autobots, really nothing happens, and anything that happens is like a quick moment. You really don't get to see very much. The fight between Bumblebee and Optimus Prime is pretty cool. They give most of it away in the trailer though, and the resolution to it I think is extremely weak. The fact that B talks, and there's no explanation for why B talks. It's the dumbest thing I've ever seen. Not to mention, just as soon as he talks, Optimus Prime just goes right back to being a good guy. There's no like transition point of him like fighting the evil or anything like that. It's just B says something and bam, Optimus Prime switches, his eyes, you know, change color. Really poorly done and not explained at all, which is so lazy. The final action sequence is very cool to see the military under fire, and to see cool shots of them shooting, you know, at unseen targets, but you really don't see the Transformers in that fight at all. Even the end fight, when they're like in the room fighting, you can barely see what's happening. Like there are some action sequences. I just watched the first Transformers again, you know, last night, and you know, there are some nice shots of Michael Bay shooting the people on the street, but shooting them at a low angle so you can see the Transformers Transformers behind them, and the Transformers are the ones that are in focus, and you can fully see them. So, you know, he's done a really nice job of showing us the human perspective while still being able to see the Transformer itself and to see exactly what's happening in that fight. With this movie, in this final sequence, you can't see what the Transformers are doing. You get like a quick shot here and there, but for the most part, you cannot see. I mean, there's a big fight between like 4 Autobots, Nitro, and Megatron going on, where you can barely see anything of it. It's incredibly annoying and just, it's awful, you know, I absolutely hate that. One of my biggest issues in this movie is that there's no wow moment. There's always, in every movie that I enjoy, there's always at least one scene where I'm just like, wow, you know, that's the scene that I look forward to seeing every time I see this movie. With this one, I don't have it. There's really nothing that I like get excited about seeing again. I like to see movies over and over and over. I saw Guardians of the Galaxy 14 times, number 2, you know, last month. But with this movie, I've seen it 4 times, and I really don't have any desire to see it again, which is incredibly strange. It's the first time that that's ever happened for me. The pace in this movie is, I think that at some moments, like when the movie started out, I thought that the pace was pretty decent. You know, they were getting to things, they weren't dwelling on stuff. It does lag in the middle section there when they get to Anthony Hopkins' place and the exposition starts and the whole submarine sequence. It does drag a bit, but overall, I think that the pace is better than the last one. The last one was a little worse with the pace. As far as the characters go, Cade Yeager, nothing really new is introduced with him. I like the aspect that he doesn't have his daughter anymore. And I like that they did explain that, you know, I didn't, you know, I kind of like that now he's kind of got his own thing going on where he helps the Autobots. I think that's a fun thing, but overall, I felt that he wasn't really, like, needed in the story, and I think that the idea of him being, like, a chosen knight is incredibly forced, and there's no payoff to it. It's really stupid. Vivian, I kind of like her character. I think that she's all right. She does come across a little annoying at times, but overall she's okay. But again, I think that the plot point that only she can wield the weapon is really forced as well. Lennox, I think that I don't think that he's needed. I think that it could have been neat to have Lennox, you know, be taking part in this military operation that he doesn't quite agree with. I think you could have some neat conflict there, but it's really never explored in any depth whatsoever, so it's not very fun. The thing that I absolutely hate, the characters, the guy from Arrested Development, that's all about the science in this movie. He's trying to explain things to people, and he's trying to figure out how to defeat them with science. He is so annoying and so useless. You take out all of his scenes, you have the exact same movie here. You don't even lose exposition, because what he says is just a lot of jumbled crap, and it's really just meant for jokes. And none of them land, by the way. So I find him incredibly annoying, and his whole plot point in this movie awful, and just every time they cut back to him, I vomit a bit in my mouth. Anthony Hopkins' character, you can see that Anthony Hopkins is having fun, which is very cool. I do definitely like that. You know, he has charisma in this movie, which I like, but a lot of his scenes are pretty heavy exposition. I think that his scenes could be cut down, although he was decent in the movie. Cogman is basically, I feel the same about Cogman as I do with Anthony Hopkins. Cogman has a lot of energy, he's kind of fun, but again, he's in it too much. I feel like they need to cut back on him. The two of them work, but they're shoved down your throat at a certain point in this movie, and it's very annoying. So if they took it back on them, I think that would have been quite nice. Isabella, a lot of people were worried about her being very annoying in this movie. I didn't find her annoying. I found her pretty decent. I think that I would actually probably prefer to see this movie kind of not go the whole going to England and learning about the history of the Transformers and, you know, trying to get, Cade Yeager being a knight. And had they just kind of gone more with the fact that Cade Yeager and Isabella's paths cross and they both have lost a family member and each other kind of fills that void. I think that you could do some really interesting stuff with that, and I think that her backstory is interesting, although it's not touched upon in this movie like at all. It's mentioned so slightly and in the most nonchalant way possible. had they actually went into depth and maybe showed you a flashback, I think that her story could have been really cool and very interesting. And I liked her dynamic with Squeaks. Squeaks is another character. Worried that he'd be annoying. I didn't find him annoying at all. I like the way that he talks, and I like the fact that he doesn't speak English. I found him quite fun and quite adorable and kind of underutilized. I think both Isabella and Squeaks, had they had more screen time and a little bit more depth with their stories, I think that they could have been really fun. Those are the two characters, the two what I would kind of classify as human characters that I liked the most, actually, in this movie. I'm probably in the minority by saying that, but I did think that there's potential with both of those characters that was lost on some of the other characters that they did focus on. Now on to the Transformers. Optimus Prime, he's not in this movie a lot. Like, you get a couple quick scenes of him in the beginning, and then you just completely like forget about him, that he's even in the movie, and then he pops up at the end. And the marketing campaign really focused on the fact that he was Nemesis Prime, and that's really only the case for one scene. He's evil for one scene, and again, like I said, it ends super abruptly and really poorly, and that's it. And then he's just a good guy again. He's very cool though, like usual, but really nothing is added to this character when it looked like they were going to add a lot to this character. Bumblebee, I found Bumblebee fun, a little bit more fun than usual, actually. I think that he was pretty neat, but again, though, the fact that he can talk and how there's no explanation for it, and just how stupid it is incredibly annoying for me personally. The Autobots in general, a lot of... Hound has cringeworthy dialogue, and he had it in Age of Extinction 2. I'm not a fan of what they do with Hound. The Autobots in general, I think that most of them were wasted. I think it's atrocity that they didn't kill at least one of them, because they're not needed in the slightest, and killing somebody can add some stakes to a battle, so why they wouldn't just kill one of them, I have no idea. Autobots kind of disappear and reappear magically. Drift and Crosshairs are completely absent from the final battle, and then when they show the final end shot of all of the characters together, Drift isn't even in that end shot. Crosshairs is, but Drift isn't, so who knows what happened to him. Hot Rod is basically defined by his accent. He has nothing going for him other than that. His accent and his weapon are the two things that defy him, which obviously have nothing to do with his character, so he's a wasted opportunity, especially how important he is in the 80s movie. Also, like, there's this, like, Constructicon, Constructibot. It looks exactly like Scrapper that's all of a sudden transforms and appears, but he does nothing. Like, they literally just don't show him again. It's very strange. The Dinobots are super underutilized. There's only 2 of them. I don't like the Dinobots. I dislike them in Age of Extinction, so personally, I didn't have a problem with the fact that they never reappeared again, but I think that they were just wasted in general, and for people that like Dinobots, I think that it's just more of a shame to see them there, but to see them do nothing. So I would have probably just taken them out completely and just mentioned the fact that they were living a nice life in the forest somewhere, like it looks like they're going to do at the end of Age of Extinction, because they're useless. Let's see, moving on to some of the Decepticons like Megatron. Megatron looks very cool. There's not a single, like, cool fight with him in it, though. The only time that he really fights, and it looks like there's cool stuff happening, is at the end, but they really don't show it. It's all in the background. You get a couple quick shots, but you really don't get to see anything in general. So he's really wasted. And the Decepticons themselves, the Decepticons are very different in this movie than they are in the other movies. The Decepticons usually don't speak English. Some of them do, but most of them just speak in their Cybertronian language. They have very deep, booming voices, and they're all very serious or very beast-like. In this movie, that's completely not the case. They all speak English. They all have really crazy personalities. I've seen a post that said that they kind of just acted like teenagers, which they really did. It was very jarring, especially since you have, like, Nitro, which has Shockwave's head. You know, remember how menacing and how silent and stoic Shockwave was? Well, imagine that character and seeing him just be ridiculous, you know, and telling human characters to say hello to their wives for them. You know, it's very strange and very jarring. I don't hate it. It's kind of nice that they gave him a personality. However, I think the personalities just makes them feel less like a threat. So they were just supposed to be more fun than they were menacing. And if you want to have stakes in a battle or in a movie in general, you have to make the antagonist menacing. And I think that is definitely lacking lacking here. Also, the fact that Barricade is at the battle at Stonehenge, which is probably my favorite thing in the movie. It's the closest I have to a wow moment, but even that, you can barely see what's happening because any decent shot is an extreme wide shot, so you can barely like tell what's happening. And but anyway, Barricade's there, and he's shooting with Nitro and Megatron, and then Megatron flies away, and that's it. We never see Barricade again. Nitro does presumably fly away with Megatron eventually, even though they don't show it, and he's in the final battle. But you know, Barricade, who knows what ends up happening to him? Maybe we'll see him again. I think that he looks so awesome. I hope that we do. But anyway. Oh, and also the future of these Transformer movies now. At this point, again, like, I didn't like this movie very much. For a Transformers movie, I think it's one of the weaker ones. I think it's just ever so slightly better than Age of Extinction, but there's such a big gap between the first three movies and these new two movies to me that doesn't say much. So I don't think it's the worst in the series. I think it's just slightly better than Age of Extinction. However, I think that both of those movies are so much lower than Revenge of the Fallen, and Revenge of the Fallen is so much lower than both Dark of the Moon and the original that this movie, although not the worst, is certainly not very good, unfortunately. And I'm a Transformers fan myself. I can turn off my brain. I'm not necessarily judging this like a movie, like I would actually like judge any like a regular movie that I see. I am judging this as a Transformer film, and it fails as a Transformer film for me personally. I'm personally happy that Michael Bay's leaving now, because now, you know, before in 2011 he had impressed me twice when disappointed me only once. Now he's impressed me twice and he's disappointed me 3 times. So I think it's time for Michael Bay to leave. I respect him as a director for what he does, but I think that he's wrong for this franchise now. I'm very excited for the Bumblebee movie. I'm a little worried that it is going to skew younger. However, I do like the people involved in that. Haley Steinfeld, I think that she is a tremendous actress. She really is. She's an Oscar-nominated actress and she deserves it. So I'm excited to see her. I think that she's a nice fit with an 80s style Bumblebee movie. I think that's tremendous. Also, Travis Knight being the director, I'm a big Travis Knight fan. He is like single-handedly responsible for keeping the art of stop motion alive in feature films. I absolutely love his work with his company at Laika. They make just tremendous movies with wonderful stories, and he has personally directed one of them, being Kubo, which is one of their best in my opinion. So I'm personally very excited for him, and the only thing I'm worried about is this is his first attempt at a live action movie, so there might be a learning curve. However, he's wonderful at directing and producing stories. The stories that Laika produces are so cool and so unique, so I do think that he can bring a lot to this franchise, and he's so polar opposite from Michael Bay. I think it's definitely what this franchise needs. I'm hoping Michael Bay doesn't return. You know, he's fine as like an advisor if he wants to produce these, but I'm kind of done with him directing these movies, I have to say. He's delivered some great ones, but he has delivered more bad ones than he has great, you know, now, in my opinion. So there you go, that's my video review. I definitely wanted to kind of hit the things that I want to talk about the most. I'm sure there's more stuff that I forgot to talk about that, you know, that I'll want to talk about later. However, I think that I did hit quite a bit of what I wanted to discuss. So let me know what you guys think of my thoughts. Let me know what your thoughts are on the movie in general, and thanks so much for watching.